Hi, I'm Nate Johnson, owner and head trainer at Steel Strength Training, where we believe in prehab, rehab, and doing what you thought was impossible. Today, I want to talk to you guys about the benefits that strength training has for athletes and how I go about programming a strength program for athletes. First of all, I'm going to talk about the frequency of the training that I recommend for athletes. The next thing I'll talk about are just specific exercise recommendations that I'd have for the athletes, and then I'll be talking about the conditioning portion that I recommend for the athletes. So the first part, frequency. I typically am going to recommend a lower frequency for athletes than I would for someone who is strictly, a weekend warrior or bodybuilder, powerlifter, Olympic lifter, where their sport is lifting. If that's what you're doing, you can stand to do a higher frequency of training. However, if you're an athlete in season, if you're in season and practicing, I would just recommend no more than 3 days a week, and you'd probably be best doing 2 days a week. Now, as far as times of the year, I'd recommend really focusing on building strength, building muscle during the off season. During that time where you have lots of time to rest, eat a lot, you're not super busy between practices, so you can build muscle, you can come back a bigger and stronger athlete. And then from there, in season, I would just switch to a 2-day maintenance program where you're basically trying to maintain your strength through the season. Ideally, you'd like to increase it. However, at that point, that may or may not be feasible, just depending on how many times you're practicing a week, how beat up you're getting from the games, how often you're playing games, things like that. However, it's definitely a proven fact that essentially all athletes are going to be better off with a little more muscle, a little more strength. So build strength in the off season, build muscle in the off season, try to maintain it as best as you can during the season, but don't let the workouts take away from your practices and, of course, your performance in your sport. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about are just specific exercise recommendations. Obviously, I'm going to go ahead and recommend the main lifts, squat, deadlift, bench press, shoulder press, weighted pull-ups, barbell rows, things of that nature. And of course, your assistance lifts to help those main lifts are going to be very important. But another thing I recommend are just not sport-specific exercises, but exercises that are going to help you rehab or prehab. So for example, if you are a pitcher or if you're a baseball player, you're using your shoulder a lot, I would do a lot of exercises, just low weight, high rep, face pulls, lateral raises, things like that, just to strengthen the area around the shoulder, and then focus maybe the last 10-15 minutes of your workout just doing some mobility stuff. Just as important as maintaining your strength in the gym during the season, I think just as important as that is going to be just prehab and ensuring that you are protecting the joints that are getting used a lot. Now, obviously you want to cover basic maintenance on all the joints and muscles in the body, but particularly those that can suffer from overuse injuries. The final thing I'm going to be talking about is conditioning work. The conditioning aspect for an athlete is very dependent on the sport they play. So if I'm working with a soccer player, I'm probably going to have them do a lot more endurance exercise. They're out there running for 90 minutes, or at least professionals are, and so they're going to be out there running for a long time. We want to make sure they have plenty of aerobic endurance, because it's a lot of exercise. The strength training is going to help, but the conditioning aspect is going to be very important for soccer players, things of that nature. Now, if we're dealing with sports that require short bursts of explosiveness, say football, we would definitely do a lot of conditioning work, but we would focus more on just high intensity conditioning work, heavy conditioning work, and maybe put a little more focus on the strength training. I think that strength portion is really going to help them out a lot. I think it's going to be even more beneficial for say a football player than a soccer player. And that's not to say that the soccer player shouldn't be performing strength training, because it will absolutely help them prevent injury, run quicker, and perform better and more explosively. So everybody should be strength training for the athletes. Just make sure that conditioning work is very specific to your sport. You want to make sure that your level of conditioning gets you ready to go out on the field, go out on the court, and ensure that you're able to perform the whole game. The strength is great and you need that strength. However, if you're getting winded 2 minutes into the game, that's not really good. And so most of the time I'm going to recommend that my athletes focus more on conditioning than just your weekend warrior who's looking to increase strength or doing bodybuilding, things of that nature. So conditioning is very important for the athlete. That's all I got for you guys today. Just remember, for the athlete, the frequency is going to be higher in the off season. Make sure you're building muscle, building strength. During the season, you're going to be trying to maintain that muscle mass and strength, possibly increasing that. That's the hopes anyway. As far as exercises go, stick with the main lifts, make sure they're going up, and then hit any prehab exercises and mobility work targeted specifically to the areas that are being worked a lot. And then finally, conditioning work is just going to be very dependent on your sport and how much conditioning you need to perform at your best on the court, on the field. See you guys next time.